Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Rob.
And this is Ask Rob and Rob.
Yes, welcome to Ask Rob and Rob. Two guys, two questions, two answers. Two ways of sending us those questions, Rob.
There is. Nice and simple. You can go to thepropertyhub.net/ask. That's thepropertyhub.net/ask. Leave a recording there. Of course, you can do that via your computer or your phone. But if you're hardcore and you love the old-fashioned telephone, well, don't worry. You can do that as well. 013 808 00035. That's 013 808 00035. Normal rates apply. First question. No name, so we can't credit you, but thank you, whoever it is, because it's really good.
Hey, Rob and Rob. I think you guys do an amazing podcast. My question is there a relation between house prices and inflation or gold or salaries? I mean, what is the correlation between all of those? Or is it a factor of those? Again, thank you so much for all your hard work. I love the episodes and your podcasts and your magazines. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.
Yeah, that is a really good question. A really important question as well. And a big one. Not the kind of thing that we could easily do justice to in 5 minutes. But don't worry, we're not going to shortchange you. We're going to give you an answer now, but we will come back to this on the Property Podcast to give it the full treatment as well, because we've kind of touched on bits of this from different angles, but we haven't really pulled it all together. So looking forward to doing that. Very broadly speaking, I would say that house prices are driven largely by three things. One is supply and demand. The second is sentiment. And the third is the price and availability of credit. So prices tend to go up when there's lots of people wanting houses. Prices also tend to go up when everyone's feeling wealthy and feeling good about things in general. And prices tend to go up when it's easy to get a mortgage and you can access that mortgage at low rates. I actually think the third is probably the biggest of those factors by quite a long way. But you need to have all of them in place to some extent in order for price growth to happen. Income is a factor as well. But income is more directly related to rents. So if you look at a graph and you plot rents against incomes, they tend to track each other pretty closely. So you tend not to have rents going up far above average incomes. Prices, though, don't track incomes at all. They vary quite wildly around incomes. So there'll be times when properties are relatively expensive by measure of income, times when they're far cheaper, and it's because there are all these different factors in play. But Rob, our questioner mentioned some other things that he thinks might have an impact as well.
Yeah, it's hard to know where to start because there's so much to this. So we definitely will do a podcast or maybe a course if it gets visual. But we'll definitely do something on this in a lot more depth. But one of the things I do want to touch on is gold and inflation. And I don't think there's any coincidence that when the gold standard was pretty much ended in the early 70s, what was left of it, and financial restraints were eased and credit was opened up, that inflation went wild. You only have to look at the long-term inflation graphs to see what it did before the 70s and what it's done since. I'm really, well, to someone but weird like us, really interesting. But hopefully it's really interesting to all you listeners as well. Again, I think wage inflation and its relation to property prices is really interesting. But wage inflation on its own, I think, is really important for people to understand and how that works. So plenty for us to go at. A few snippets there, and thank you for your question. But really, what it is a preview to an upcoming either course or podcast, which we will do in a not too distant future. But a question we can answer in full is this question from Tom. Take it away, Tom.
Hi, Rob and Rob. It's Tom from Cambridge here. Firstly, I'd like to start with saying thank you for all of the resources you guys put together. Like pretty much every other person who's asked a question on Ask Rob and Rob, they've given me now the confidence to start moving forward. I'm still in my apartment in Cambridge, which I began renting out when I moved for work. I guess I've become what you term an accidental landlord. I've now purchased elsewhere, and the yield on this property is particularly poor, and opportunity for capital growth is quite low, I would guess. I'm now beginning to sort of look to invest in multiple properties in the northwest, given the level of equity in that Cambridge property. My question is, when's the time to begin looking at exact properties to invest in and making an offer on them? Should I wait for my apartment sale to complete, or should I make the offer on my first property prior to the apartment sale completing? Again, thanks in advance for all of the help and all of the guidance you've given me and the other listeners thus far.
Thank you for your question, Tom, and thank you for the kind words as well. Okay, so you're in a position that a lot of people are. You've become an accidental landlord. You've got a property that you're renting out that isn't the property that you would have chosen if you were going to buy one specifically to rent out. Very common. It sounds like you've made the decision to sell that property. Doesn't sound like a bad move at all. Presumably you've had some decent growth on it if it's in Cambridge. Maybe you think that's topping out now, and you think that you can take that cash and put it to better use. In terms of timing, there's no hard and fast answer. But I would say I'd at least get it exchanged before going and making actual offers. Reason being that sales can drag on and on and on. Even if you've got an offer accepted and things seem to be progressing quite nicely, you never quite know what's going to happen. Up until the point you exchange, you don't know for sure that it's going to happen at all, and you don't know that they're not going to hit a stumbling block with their mortgage or something random is going to come out of the woodwork and put you back by a couple of months. If you're then in the position where you've gone off and had offers accepted on other properties and you're committed to those, then that could put you in an awkward position with having to slow things down or pull out or whatever. So it is frustrating having to wait, and you might find that your own sale flies through and then you think you should have gone sooner. But I think it's better that way round. And that doesn't mean that you can't go and do all the research, of course. So you can spend loads of time digging into it, working out exactly what you're going to do, but just hold off on those offers until you've got it exchanged. Like I say, that's not set in stone, but that's what I'd do.
Yeah, solid advice, Rob. I'd do the same. There's no point in getting really excited about a deal and getting disappointed because you can't act on it. So do all your research, get yourself prepped, get ready to take action. So it's not that there's not stuff to be done right now, but in terms of solid, firm offers, I'd probably pause on it until you're a little bit further down the line. Okay. That's a wrap. 2 more questions done. For those who feel like they need more, though, don't worry. We'll be back on Thursday with the Property Podcast. And, of course, back next week with Ask Rob and Rob. Until then, everyone, take care. Have fun. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.